Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
Back on the Put On Raiders podcast, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes. So last year, one of your sleeper teams, and they got off to a fast start. One of those years they got to a fast start. I'm not sure what last year. I don't remember how the Panthers started, but the 3-0, right? Okay, 3-0, then they fell off. So, but they do have actual physical talent on the football team. Like they really do. More Robinson, they can definitely get something done. Do you feel like Baker Mayfield going to the Panthers, and good job by the Panthers holding out, not paying anything more than they should have in this situation? Do you feel like this is a situation where he improves his football team, or are they just around the same level?
I think he improves them. It's going to come down to the offense and if they can run the ball, and can Christian McCaffrey stay healthy, because that's a big if. But there's an argument to be made, and I'm not a Baker Mayfield guy by any stretch of the imagination, but he might be the second best quarterback in that division behind Tom Brady, because the other two quarterbacks you're looking at are probably Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. And you can make an argument that the Baker Mayfield's better than those two. They have a really good defense. J.C. Horn got hurt early last year. He was off to a really good start. They have those two weapons on the outside. It's going to come down to the offensive line and Christian McCaffrey, because I think the defense is going to be a top 10 defense. They can get after you now with those guys up front. So we'll see. I don't know if I'm ready to stamp them as a playoff team with Baker Mayfield, but they're definitely going to be competitive. He's better than Sam Darnold. And I think he puts them somewhere in that 7, 8, 9 win range. So depending on how things unfold in the NFC, he could lead them to the playoffs.
That should be interesting happens there. I mean, the division is interesting because of the Saints. And if Jameis can play and play well, that team is going to be tough to beat, because they might have one of the best rosters in football. So if Michael Thomas ever comes back, they could really be special as well too. So we'll see what happens there. Watson, still nothing. I don't know what the situation is. I know it's like negotiation going back and forth. But I mean, this month, it has to be the month where it takes place. You can't have him walking into training camp.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens, because you're down to, I think, four complaints still left with him. He's settled with a bunch of them. I think there's 3 or 4 left that they have to dig into. But how much does the NFL talk to those 4 women? Have those 4 women even talked to the NFL? We don't know where it stands with that. So it's going to be really interesting here. I think over the next week, the NFL is going to have to do something. The Raiders open up camp, I believe, in 9 days. I don't know when Cleveland does, but it's got to be within the next 14 days. You can't open camp and have him out there and then pull the plug on him 4 or 5 days into camp. So they're going to need to make a decision quickly. And then on the Jimmy G front, I did see today that, Seattle has some interest. I know you brought up Seattle as a destination for Jimmy G. I don't know if they would trade him in the division. I don't know if Seattle would even want to do that. I think they're trying to get into the sweepstakes for the quarterbacks next year, but it's been really interesting to see where Jimmy G lands here in the next probably 7 to 10 days.
So that. Do you feel like this is like, would the Niners actually trade him to Seattle?
I don't know if they would. I don't know if Seattle would want him. And if they did, I wouldn't give up anything to get him. I mean, that'd be like a 6th or 7th round conditional pick, because you got to take on that salary.
Just cut him.
Who wants to? Yeah, like he may end up having to get cut. He can't go to camp with the 49ers, because they can't have the whole team look over their shoulders if Trey Lance gets off to a bad start.
Every pick. Every pick or every fumble, which is going to happen to Trey Lance at some point. So like if that happens, you can't be sitting there like you said, like every 5 seconds saying, Jimmy G. I mean, it's just going to get nuts. And the Bay Area media is going to go crazy sitting there, especially if they get off to a bad start. I didn't realize I remember I was watching random game film the other day, and like I didn't realize they were 3-5. at some point last year.
Yeah.
And before they turned it on, they lost to Colt McCoy. They gave up 30 points to Colt McCoy in their building. And they said I tell you one thing, when the Raiders better get that run defense ready for game 2 against the Cardinals, because James Conner, he was a beast last year, dude. He was running, he runs hard. So they has that. They got something going on, and the Cardinals usually get off to a fast start. So, but yeah, we'll see where Jimmy G goes. I think you might as well just end up cutting him because it just makes all the sense in the world to just cut him. As far as that goes, Raiders, back to the Raiders now. The defensive position battle as far as defensive tackle goes, we know what we're going to get from Jonathan Hankins, and he's going to be the run stopper. But what do we get from Bilal Nichols? What do we get from Matthew Butler or Neil Farley? It's Billing is going to make the team. Kendall Vickers, is he a factor? That's probably one of the spots on this football team where we have to say, hey, what are the Raiders here at defensive tackle, especially on 3rd and long. You got to figure you're going to get some favorable situations when you have Crosby and you have I can't remember his name.
Jones.
Jones on the other side.
Yeah, I don't think they're done at defensive tackle. The Raiders have an open roster spot as of today. They released Stanford Samuels a corner, so they're at 89. That doesn't mean they're signing Sue, so don't get me wrong. But I think if there's a pass rushing defensive tackle out there they can bring in on 3rd downs, Bilal Nichols is going to get an opportunity to be that guy, and so will Matthew Butler. But they lack depth there because the rest of those interior offensive linemen are just 2-gap run stuffers. They're not going to get after the quarterback. And you need to have a rotation of guys that can get after the pass rusher, especially this offense. If this offensive line holds up, this offense is going to score a lot of points. The Raiders are going to be leading. And teams won't be running the ball against them. So they're going to have to really shore up what the nickel package looks like and who those interior rushers are, because it can't be Hankins. It's not going to be Farrell. It's not going to be Billings. It's probably you're looking at Butler, who's a rookie. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. And then next to him, Nichols.
It's interesting there. I just don't. I mean, is there anybody besides Sue out there?
Off the top of my head, I'd have to look at a list of what's out there, but there's got to be someone. There'll be some cuts as we get through training camp too. But you'd like it to be a veteran. The age doesn't matter to me because you're not asking this guy to come in and play, 80% of snaps. You're just looking for someone that can come in and give you, 20, 25 snaps a game as an inside rusher that doesn't really have to play the run. So you're kind of just looking for, a specialist type guy. So there's going to be those kind of guys available. Like a Danico Autry would be great on this team. Shelby Harris, that kind of guy on the inside.
Guys who are Raiders.
Ex-Raiders.
Raiders. Danico Autry would be perfect on this football team as far as that goes. Running back room. So you got Britton Brown, you got Amir Abdullah, Zamir White, Brandon Bolden, and Kenyon Drake, and then obviously Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be the bell cow. I think they're going to switch it up a little bit too. I mean, he does have a little bit of his I don't think he's as fluid as James White. Just catches the ball like a wide receiver, So, but we'll have to see if that actually takes place with Kenyon Drake. You want to be able to have some diversity there because you don't want to have Kenyon Drake's in the game, so we know it's a passing situation, and you don't want to have it with Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs in the game, it's going to be a run. So we'll have to see what happens there. Josh Jacobs did improve himself a little bit, catching the ball out of the backfield last year. He had some big catches on 3rd down, made some plays in the passing game. What are your thoughts about the Raiders running back room?
It reminds me of the menu at the Cheesecake Factory. There's a little bit of everything in there. And Josh McDaniels is going to be able to order whatever he wants, depending on what the matchups are that week. So if you got a team that has really good coverage linebackers, they're probably going to play Brandon Bolden, Zamir White, and Josh Jacobs and pound the rock, and you can play Bolden on 3rd down. If they can't cover running backs out of the backfield, you're going to get a lot of, again, probably Kenyon Drake mixed in with some Brandon Bolden out of the backfield. I think Britton Brown is going to end up on the practice squad, just an interior physical runner they can use due to injuries. Zamir White's going to be interesting to see how often they play him and how early they play him. And then Abdullah's got a chance to make the team. I don't know if he will. If it's going to be because of special teams, kick return, coverage, to be on the coverage units, that kind of guy. And then again, you can use him on 3rd downs if you need to. I would much rather use Drake Bolden or even Jacobs on third downs. But this is an interesting group because it's going to depend. You're not going to know. We're going to have weeks where we're going to look at the inactives and go, what? This guy's inactive and they're playing him. And it's all due to the matchups because they're going to keep 4 or 5 running backs and they're all going to play at some point.
Yeah, that's very true. It's be interesting to see. And it's going to be games, like you said, it can be game specific because it's not going to. They feel like they can pound the rock. You're going to see a lot of running backs. If they can't, they're not going to see that at all. Watched just random AFC NFC matchup. I watched the game between Packers and Bengals last year, and
that was a good game.
That was a
lot
good
of
game.
missed field goals at the end.
Yeah, missed field goals in the game, but there's some human. I mean, there are receivers in the football. There's receivers in the NFL. And I'm happy the Raiders have Devontae Adams. With Jamar Chase is just built different, man. Like so, it was good to see Adams and him in the same game because there's some receivers who are just like who are there, but like those two guys are just built different, and it's just crazy to me how good they are watching that game. Also, you know, the Bengals are an interesting team because they just spent the entire offseason improving. One of their biggest problems was the offensive line. And he got hit a lot in that game. He got sacked a whole lot in that game. That Packer pass rush really got to Joe Burrow. But, you know, everything that they're predicated on really kind of just is their success of the offensive line. The offensive line comes together. I'm not sure why the Bengals aren't being talked about as a team that could possibly go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think they are. I've heard their name thrown around a lot. To me, it's can they repeat? To me? I don't.
It's hard.
Defense. I don't believe in the corners enough to say, yeah, I'm going to just stamp this team. When we pick our divisions, I'm not going to pick them to win the division. Just tell you now, I'm going to pick the Ravens. But you know that offensive line, if it can get better and keep him upright longer, and he holds the ball too. Some of this is on Joe Burrow. It's not just the offensive line, but Jamar Chase is the real deal. T. Higgins is a good outside receiver. That can win matchups as a number 2, and then obviously Tyler Boyd in the slot's a really good receiver as well. So he's going to have plenty of options to throw the ball there too. I probably will pick them to make the playoffs. I just don't think I'm going to pick them to win the division.
Then they get Hayden Hurst at tight end too, the pass catching tight end. I think they got a tight end.
I believe he's there. Yeah.
I think he's there. So they do have some things there. And it's crazy because you know didn't Jamar Chase get open down the field in that Super Bowl? And when Jalen Ramsey fell down, they could end up winning the Super Bowl if he had a little bit more protection in that game too as well. So as far as that goes, are you as physically annoyed by quarterback list as everybody else is? As I'm just I
scroll past them now on Twitter. I won't even look at them. I'm just like next. Like we're good. Like I don't need to see these lists. Let's see. Or like lists based on like can the guy's team like play defense like out like tell me if he's a good quarterback or not. I don't need to know about everything else. But yeah, I'm at this point where I'm just ready for training camp to open. I scanned through a lot of stuff on Twitter over the last couple of weeks. It's all just nonsense right now to fill time.
Yeah, no question about it. What in the red zone? What's one of the one plays that just drive you absolutely nuts that you hate seeing teams run? Because I watching games back this week, and I just one play that just drives me crazy.
I love this. I hate the sticks play. I hate the slant with the out there. Just anything that's short of the goal line. Depending now, obviously, if you're at the 15-yard line, it's a little different. But if you're at the 7-yard line in. I don't really like those kind of plays, like the curl at the goal line. There's just too many bodies, too many guys to jump in passing lanes, and stuff like that. I love the plays like the Rams are good at this, like where they motion the guy down and then kind of do that like basketball screen and run the slant underneath and start creating picks and stuff like that. Like those kind of plays I like. It's just the standard, Tecmo Bowl plays the teams run in the red zone. I just can't do it.
My thing is excuse me, was the sprint to one side. It drives me crazy. Like why are we sprinting to one? Why are we sprinting to one side? Or it just because if the person's not immediately open, the wide receiver's not immediately open, tight end's not immediately open, you end up throwing the ball out of bounds or running the ball out of bounds. I saw a lot of it too. It just drives me absolutely crazy. as far as that goes. So those are a couple of things that kind of drive me crazy. Mo Moten was I just heard him on Twitter the other day talking about he feels like he's a guest on our show before, and has his own show as well, but feels like Leather would be best suited to the inside and it wouldn't up being there. Do I mean, they're gonna take a long look at right tackle for him though, right? I mean, they kind of, I mean, obviously if he can't handle it, they're not gonna keep him there. But what are your thoughts about him? Maybe his goal probably will be on the inside rather than the outside.
Yeah, I've got 4 camp battles I specifically had circled here. Number 1 is right tackle. What do they do with Alex Leatherwood? Hopefully he's improved. If you do it off the game tape from the first 4 weeks of last year, it wasn't good at all. He just kind of, his outside arm will get low, it gets slapped down. He just give up the corner way too easily. For a guy that's that athletic and moves that well, there is a little bit of stiffness sometimes when he's pass blocking. And then hopefully the speed of the game. And when he moved inside, it seemed he played a lot better at the end of the year. And he might just be that physical interior guard at the end of the day. They have to try him at right tackle to begin with, just because of where they took him.
Yeah.
Just because of the athleticism. Like his athleticism grades are off the charts. He's big, he's physical. It's all technique now at this point. And hopefully, spending last year switching from the left side to the right side and having a year on the right side helps him. Because if it doesn't work out, they don't have another option on this roster. They cannot go into the season with Brandon Parker as the right tackle. So they would need to bring in a free agent. Illuminor, a lot of Raider fans love him. I think he's just that versatile backup lineman that's good enough to be on a roster and play. He's not a difference maker. Denzel Good's not a right tackle. I know Raider fans are like, we played right tackle one game against the Patriots that year, week 3. We'll go throw that film on. It was atrocious at right tackle that week. So that is a big position battle I have circled. And then clearly I got a couple other ones. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to roster construction and breakdown. So people probably won't be interested in my other ones, but it's like, who are the second and third safeties? Who's the nickel linebacker? Who's the second or third tight end? Mm-hmm. Who's going to win those roster spots? Because to me, that like talking about who's the second and third tight end, we all know Darren Waller is the number 1 tight end, but who's going to be the number 2 tight end? It's going to be Bauer, Hollister, Morrow. Because they're not going to hand it to Foster Morrow. He's going to have to earn it. Yeah. And then who's going to be the number 3 if they want to go 13 personnel, or who's going to be the number 3 when they're down in the red zone? Is it an athletic guy that the defense doesn't have a tough time matching up in 13 personnel? If they want to do that, then it's probably Morrow and Hollister. If they want to run the ball, it's probably Bauer. So who's going to win that second tight end spot is probably going to tell you a lot about what kind of offense they're going to run this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Happens there. I mean, I do like. I mean, listen, maybe we'll see the best of Foster Moreau, in this offense. But yeah, like you said, it's not going to be a situation where he's going to be given anything. I do like of all the rosters kind of situations. I mean, I remember when we did our favorite linebackers. I didn't love the Raider linebackers from him. Obviously, from them, but I do like the linebackers we have on this team. I do like Jayon Brown. He can cover. A modern linebacker in today's football. Denzel Perryman can do a lot of tackling machine. Probably one of the best trades the Raiders made under the previous administration. And then Divine Diablo. It sounds like they really like Divine Diablo. He's just former safety. Can do a lot of different things for the Raiders there. As far as the linebackers go.
Yeah, and my question is, when I say, interested in me in camp battle, who are the nickel backers? Who are the 2 guys when they go nickel and the opposing team goes 11 personnel? Does Perryman stay on the field? Because coverage is a big issue with him. Do they go Brown and Diablo and get young guys that can run around and cover? But then you're set up for a lot of teams running the ball at 11 personnel against you, because neither one of those guys is great against the run. Diablo was flash last year, but by no way is he a stalwart against the run. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up early in the season, and then when they go to dime, which guy stays on the field, because it won't be Perryman. Will it be Diablo or Brown? And where does Kenny Young fit in? He's a coverage linebacker as well. So the Raiders have some interesting battles there. And again, the second and third safety to me is interesting. Like, what are they going to do when they want to go dime and they bring in 3 safeties? And who's going to start opposite Merrick? I don't think they're going to hand it to Abram. I think he's going to have to earn it. But I think Gillespie might surprise some people. You still have Harmon, who's a seasoned veteran. He doesn't run very well anymore, but he's not going to make a ton of mistakes and be out of or get out of the play. And then what happens with Levitt and Teamer? You know, are those guys going to make this team? Does Palamau, does someone, an undrafted free agent, make this team? So I'm more concerned. Like, it's good to talk about those issues on a roster for once than talking about who the starters are going to be, because we know who the Raiders starters are.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about what are they going to do in dime? What are they going to do in nickel? How are they going to line up in 11 personnel? How are they going to line up in 13 personnel? I'd much rather have those conversations than trying to figure out who like the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver is going to be.
And these are important conversations because, you know, it's all about, you know, it's all fun and games until we got a loaded roster until you get, you know, a rash of injuries. And then you got to play so-and-so and so-and-so. And then you start realizing, hey, maybe they should have went and got this guy instead of that guy. Or when he was a free agent, maybe they could have allocated more money to certain spots. So you got to make sure you have as much depth as humanly possible for the Raiders. And it'd be interesting to see how the rest of this kind of pans out. I'm very interested to see how, whether it's Cole, Tyron Johnson, or Matt Collins, to see what happens with that other wide receiver spot. I'm just interested to see what happens with that spot. And probably a rotational guy. I mean, obviously Demarcus Robinson is a guy who we could see there too. And you mentioned too as well. What do you do at? Do you have Hunter Renfrow return kicks? I think you could do. I can see him doing it in the playoffs. But
I wouldn't do it.
I mean, I can see him doing it in moments, but not during the season. You can't. He's too valuable. You can't have that guy go down.
Yeah, I would hope that one of these, you know, undrafted free agents or younger guys, you know, DJ Turner, maybe. I'm forgetting the guy's name. They picked up a little tiny slot receiver who's a good returner, Justin something. I'm blanking on his name, but maybe he wins a roster spot. You know, there's got to be someone else. And I'd hate to lose Hunter Renfrow. And I know Julian Edmonds.
Justin Hall. Justin Hall.
Justin Hall. That's his name. Yeah. But I'd like to see someone else take over that punt returning duty, as long as they're not a fumbler and they can catch the ball. That's pretty much all the Raiders need to do. Raider fans will love Hunter Renfrow returning punts until he gets hurt. And then they're going to be like, why is he back there? Why is he returning punts? I wish they had like a Dante Hall type guy in this roster that could just go back there and be a jitterbug punt returner, or Brian Mitchell or someone like that. But I don't think that guy's in the running back room, so it's going to have to come from the wide receiver room.
Remember back in the day, it seemed like everybody had a corner who would return punts. They don't have that. You know, nobody has that corner.
Philip Buchanan,
people like that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, those are cool. All right, cool, Raider Nation. You know, 8 days, 7 days, whatever. The training camp is going to be. You know, the whistle's going to be blowing, and the Raiders will be on the field. All 90 of them, and then they'll dwindle it down to 53.
There's 89 right now.
89 right now. So we'll see if they add somebody else. They probably got somebody in mind who they want to add. Ryan, have a great day. Safe travels. And
All right, you too.
We'll see you next time, Raider Nation. Peace.
Take care.